It's not every day your average New York City cop goes from this
Welcome to the party, pal!
all the way to this. Get ready to deck the halls with guns and ammo, because John McClane is coming down the ventilation system. Chimney. Today, we're talking about Die Hard. Let's get right into it. Die Hard was an immediate hit on its release in 1988. Due to its tense setting and charismatic lead performance by Bruce Willis as John McClane. There's simply no series without him. Unlike the other bulging, muscled action stars of the time, McClane is defined by being average. He's just caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time with a no-nonsense go-screw-yourself attitude. You'll also see his hairline recede a bit more in each film. It's also one of the greatest Christmas films of all time, if you like to watch buildings explode as you sip hot cocoa. Alright, enough talk, let's get into the entire story of Die Hard. It's Christmas Eve, and John McClane has just landed in LA. He's a nervous flyer and gets advice from another passenger to take his shoes and socks off at his destination. Advice that will have major implications later. McClane is visiting LA to try and save his marriage with his wife Holly, who has a real Christmassy name. She took a job on the other side of the country and their relationship isn't looking too good. McClane hops in a limo driven by Argyle, who plays us a very 80s Christmas rap.
You got any Christmas music? This is Christmas music.
The building they're headed to is Nakatomi Plaza, where Holly's employer is hosting a holiday party. McClane goes to the front desk and is immediately slighted when he goes to check in and finds Holly staying under her maiden name. Yikes. He briefly meets with Holly, and it doesn't seem like she wants to get back together anytime soon. She heads down for a speech while McClane gets ready. Little does anyone know, a group of terrorists has expertly infiltrated the building and closed it off to the outside world. They cut the building's phones and start shooting. Something tells me they weren't on the guest list. McClane witnesses this from his room and sneaks away, bringing his service pistol. The crooks take the entire lobby hostage, and their leader introduces himself. This is the most iconic villain in this series, Hans Gruber. He's ruthless, calculating, and played expertly by Alan Rickman, who's still using a Snape voice, even though this was years before he became a wizard. Hans threatens the entire room and has his most imposing thug Carl take the company's leader, Joseph Takagi, into another room to interrogate him. Once alone, Hans asks for codes to access the building's vault, and his true motive surfaces. These aren't terrorists. They're just plain thieves in it only for the money. John starts sneaking around the building still barefoot and finds the room where Gruber brought Takagi. John eavesdrops on the meeting and gets a demo of Hans's ruthlessness firsthand. When Takagi won't give him the code,
You just gonna have to kill me? Okay.
Hans and his men hear McClane and investigate. A shootout ensues, but John slips away into the service hallway. Hans sends Carl's brother, Tony, to go after him. Meanwhile, the hacker of the group, Theo, begins cracking the vault. It was the 80s. Every movie needs a hacker. Meanwhile, McClane gets into a fistfight with Tony. McClane wins by throwing his ass down a flight of stairs. McClane loots Tony and retrieves a radio, a machine gun, and C4 detonators. Back in the lobby, Hans tries to get one of the hostages to cave when John sends an elevator down with Tony's body and a message.
I've left nothing to chance.
John hangs out on top of the elevator and starts eavesdropping to collect intel on the group. Next, John heads to the roof where he radios the police, but they don't really believe him. Assuming this is a classic Christmas prank call, LAPD sends their resident donut eater, Sergeant Al Powell, to check it out. A squad led by Carl intercepts John, but McClane manages to escape through the ventilation system. Outside, Powell shows up, and all seems normal at the building. John gets his attention by throwing one of the thieves' corpses onto the cruiser. That'll do. Hans radios to demand the detonators, but McClane is not gonna cooperate and lets him know with his signature catchphrase.
Yippee-ki-yay, mother...
Don't quote that one at your holiday office party. Next, the SWAT team arrives, but the thieves have some serious firepower and fend them off. But McClane provides backup by sending C4 down the elevator shaft in a seriously cool explosion. Now, Hans is really pissed off. Holly's sleazy, coked-up coworker Harry Ellis meets with Hans to negotiate. He claims to know John well and tries to convince John to surrender over the radio. McClane tells him it's a dumb idea, but Ellis does not listen and keeps up the act. He pays with his life. Somehow, I don't feel bad. Next, Hans heads to the roof to rig some explosives when he encounters the American cowboy himself, McClane. But Hans, ever the good actor, disguises his voice so McClane doesn't recognize him. John trusts Hans and eventually gives him a gun. Hans breaks character to shoot McClane, but psych! No bullets! Just in time, thieves show up and save Hans's ass. They also shoot some glass, causing John to bleed from his feet. I told you the no shoes thing would come into play. Once again, McClane gets away. Outside, the FBI shows up and shuts the power off, which disables the final lock in the vault, giving Theo access. Hans demands that the FBI deliver a helicopter, but he's really planning to secretly escape downstairs. The FBI agrees, but plan to take out the thieves during the pickup. What they don't know is that Hans rigged the roof to blow. Meanwhile, McClane speaks with Powell and learns some shocking backstory. Powell accidentally killed a kid in the field and hasn't fired his gun since. Damn. McClane finds the charges on the roof, but he's interrupted by Carl. They get into one hell of a fight. John eventually getting the upper hand and choking him out, using a chain. Downstairs, Hans sees coverage of McClane on the news and realizes he's Holly's husband. He separates her from the other hostages and sends the rest to the roof. McClane makes it upstairs and fires wildly to get the hostages to scatter. Hans blows the roof, destroying the feds' helicopter. McClane has no choice but to rappel down using a fire hose. Wow, that was close. Meanwhile, in the garage, Theo hops in a getaway car, but he gets rammed by our boy, Argyle. I think he's earned a 5-star rating. Upstairs, McClane, now beat up and exhausted, confronts Hans. With his wife's life at risk, he finally surrenders. He had his gun taped to his back and starts shooting. Hans gets hit and staggers out the window, pulling Holly down. She holds onto the ledge, while Hans tightly grips her watch. McClane undoes it, and Hans falls to his death in a seriously iconic moment. McClane and Holly reunite downstairs, and the movie seems over. But Carl somehow survived and comes raging out of the building. He gets gunned down by Powell, bringing his arc full circle. He finally learned to kill again. A Christmas miracle. Next, Argyle crashes out of the garage and picks up the couple, whose bond has finally been restored. The lesson here, kids: if you're having marital issues, take out a team of terrorist thieves to win her love back. It could only happen on Christmas Day. Only 2 years later came Die Hard 2, which has the hilarious and unsubtle subtitle Die Harder. This film is almost exactly like the first one, including its holiday setting. Are we sure John McClane isn't an alter ego for Kris Kringle? Anyways, it's Christmas Eve again, and McClane, who's suspended from the police force, picks his wife up from the airport in Washington, D.C. What he doesn't know is that another flight is on its way too, carrying General Ramon Esperanza. The general is being transported to an American prison, but he has some friends who are planning a welcome party for him. At a nearby building, William Stewart, a disgraced former Special Forces soldier who served alongside Esperanza in South America, is planning to bust him out. Stewart leads his men to take over the building. At the terminal, McClane notices some of Stewart's men acting suspicious and follows them into the baggage claim area. Of course, a gunfight ensues. He takes out one guy, but the other escapes. McClane is brought in by the airport police chief, Carmen Lorenzo, and tries to tip him off to the conspiracy. But Lorenzo doesn't believe him. Next, McClane radios his old pal, Sergeant Powell, to get some intel. The dead thug's fingerprints are the same as an American soldier who was listed as dead 2 years earlier. McClane brings his concerns to Ed Trudeau, head of air traffic control, but he doesn't believe him either. At the airport's church, Stewart and his men begin their takeover. They cut off the terminal's communications with incoming airplanes, leaving them stranded in the sky. They also shut down the runway and demand that Esperanza's plane be allowed to land. McClane is immediately concerned for Holly's incoming plane and teams up with Marvin, an airport janitor. McClane heads deep into the airport and makes a hilariously meta comment.
Oh man, I can't f***ing believe this. Another basement, another elevator. How could the same shit happen to the same guy twice?
Next, airport personnel set up an antenna to communicate with the planes, but Stewart's men destroy it and kill people along the way. However, they didn't count on John McClane. He saves Leslie Barnes, the airport's top engineer, and kills some of Stewart's guys. Stewart responds by impersonating air traffic control, leading a passenger airliner to crash, killing everyone on board. Damn, that's evil. Next, a counter-terrorist unit arrives, led by Stewart's mentor Grant. They gear up to attack the church. McClane keeps looking into the terrorists solo. He eventually goes to intercept Esperanza's plane landing. McClane tries to stop the pickup, but Stewart and his men easily get Esperanza away. McClane runs into an old plane. The mercenaries drop a grenade inside, but McClane hits eject just in time and parachutes down safely. The mercs bring Esperanza to the church. John regroups with Grant and heads to the church. They take some more guys out, but other mercenaries escape on snowmobiles. McClane chases them until his vehicle gets shot up. McClane thought he should have done more damage, until he checks his gun and realizes it's loaded with blanks, meaning that Grant is in cahoots with Stewart. What a twist! Later, Grant, Stewart, Esperanza, and the henchmen prepare to board a 747 out of there. Meanwhile, on Holly's flight, a reporter named Richard Thornburg gets suspicious. He poses as a pilot to listen in on info about the situation. He broadcasts it remotely, causing a complete panic in the terminal, which prevents McClane and Lorenzo from reaching the 747. It seems like Esperanza is gonna get away, but McClane takes over a news helicopter to reach the plane. From there, McClane jumps onto the wing to stop it from taking off. Grant gets into a fistfight on the wing, which ends with McClane kicking him into the jet engine. Gotta admit, he's got style. McClane opens a fuel valve, causing gas to leak. The plane lifts off and McClane is thrown from the wing. John hits them with a Die Hard special.
Yippee-ki-yay,
He uses a cigarette lighter to light up the trailing fuel. The flame goes directly to the engine and blows the flight out of the sky. Holly's plane is cleared to come down, with a fire trail from the gas serving as a landing strip light. With the new crisis averted, McClane and Holly reunite and are driven away by Marvin. Also, it's Christmas Day, just like the last time. The third film, Die Hard with a Vengeance, ditches Christmas and confined settings for McClane's home turf, New York City. It all starts when a bomb goes off in a department store. The bomber calls the NYPD and identifies himself as Simon. He wants to play a game of Simon Says, and requests that the NYPD bring back one of their suspended detectives, John McClane. Simon threatens another bomb unless his instructions are followed. Simon immediately makes life miserable for McClane by forcing him to wear a sign with a shocking racial slur in the middle of Harlem. He, of course, almost gets his ass beat, but is saved by the one, the only, Samuel L. Jackson, who's playing the meek electrician, Zeus Carver.
Back! Back up! Back the up!
They get away in a taxi. McClane and Carver go to the NYPD headquarters, where they get another call from Simon. He tells them to reach payphones within a time limit or another bomb will detonate. The trail leads them onto a subway, and Carver reaches it before McClane. Simon calls to say another bomb is going off. McClane is on his way in a subway car. He discovers the bomb and throws it on the tracks just as it goes off. Somehow, he survives. Next, McClane and Carver meet up with some FBI and CIA agents, who give some much-needed intel on Simon. Turns out his real name is Simon Gruber, brother of Hans Gruber from the first movie, making this a revenge mission. What? Simon calls again and says he put a bomb in an elementary school next, and he'll reveal the location if McClane and Carver can beat another challenge. McClane and Carver are led to a fountain in a public park that contains a countdown for the bomb. They can only defuse it if they accurately pour 4 gallons of water into a 5-gallon container from a 3-gallon jug. McClane smartly pours 2 gallons of water at a time, and the bomb's clock stops.
You did it, McClane! Put it on the thing! Get it down there!
Simon is a lot more Jigsaw-like than his brother was. Using clues from the last puzzle, they head to a potential school that's housing a bomb. Nearby, McClane overhears a kid make a joke and realizes that Simon is distracting the NYPD, leaving the Federal Reserve Bank of New York wide open for a robbery. McClane discovers that Simon's men have taken billions in gold using dump trucks as cover. He follows the trucks into an under-construction water supply tunnel. Meanwhile, Carver keeps up with Simon's challenges. When McClane is inside, he sees a big transportation route to smuggle the gold. But before he can look too much, the tunnel floods. McClane outruns it in a semi, but the tunnel breaks and floods. McClane escapes just in time and gets back to Carver, not without a car chase. Once stopped, they check out the bodies of Simon's men and realize that they were just carrying Canadian change for a bridge toll, leading McClane to their next location. McClane and Carver reach Simon and his crew at a tanker, but it isn't long before Simon's men capture them and tie them up to a bomb. Simon unveils his plan. He's gonna blow up the tanker, which he says is filled with US gold reserve, and destabilize the Western economy. In reality though, it's empty. The gold is somewhere else. Simon leaves Carver and McClane is tied up. They work together and free themselves, escaping from the tanker just as it explodes. Later, McClane and Carver regroup with the NYPD. McClane tells them the gold wasn't on the tanker, and Simon wants to use it for himself. The Gruber brothers really do think alike, always pretending to have lofty goals when they really just want the dough. McClane goes to call Holly, whom he's separated from again. Get it together, John. Anyways, the call is interrupted when he notices another clue, an aspirin bottle given to him earlier by Simon. The bottle was purchased at a truck stop US-Canada border, giving McClane a strong lead on where to look next. McClane sets out with the NYPD and Carver to investigate. They discover a warehouse near the truck stop where Simon and his men have the gold. NYPD starts making arrests, but Simon and his partner hop in a helicopter and go for McClane. John shoots an electrical tower, causing a line to collide with the helicopter. It explodes, and of course, he gets his catchphrase in.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
After the battle, Carver tells McClane to call Holly one last time. That's gonna work out. Next came another great sequel, Live Free or Die Hard, also known as Die Hardest. Just kidding, I made that up. Anyways, it's 2007 and the internet is scary. Hackers are on the attack, led by our main villain, Thomas Gabriel. His hackers trigger explosives, then cause a blackout at the FBI headquarters. Miguel Bowman, the FBI deputy director, tasks local law enforcement nationwide to arrest suspicious hackers. Our boy, John McClane, gets sent to New Jersey to arrest Matt Farrell. Of course, he's a hacker. He is a Mac guy after all.
Hello, I'm a Mac.
McClane is about to bring him in when assassins shoot up the place. McClane gets into a gunfight which leads to an explosion. Classic McClane. They eventually exit through the fire escape. Next, McClane drives Matt to DC. Matt tells him he was recruited, along with other hackers across the country, to write parts of an algorithm for a mysterious client. He thought this was for a cybersecurity contract, but it seems like his code has attracted some really bad guys. Meanwhile, Gabriel orders his men to hijack transportation grids and financial markers. He also broadcasts a threatening message to the government through edited clips of different presidents.
It is time to
Strike fear into the hearts of citizens.
McClane and Farrell head to Homeland Security, but one of Gabriel's associates, Mai Ling, acts like a dispatcher and lures them into a trap. Yep, McClane is facing off against a helicopter and a whole lot of other bad guys. But good thing he has a car. McClane launches the vehicle, bails out at the last second, and destroys the chopper in the movie's best stunt. Next, McClane and Matt head to the FBI and strategize. Matt figures that Gabriel's next target is the power grid, and they drive to an energy station in West Virginia. Matt and McClane find the building under the control of Lynn and her crew, so McClane goes McClane mode and kills them. He takes out Lynn by locking her in a car that plummets down an elevator shaft. Then it explodes. Think you got her, John? Meanwhile, Matt plugs into a computer to slow the assault on the grid. He uses his tech super skills to find Gabriel and send his photo to Bowman, the FBI deputy director. McClane also discovers that Bowman and Gabriel were in US intelligence together, and Gabriel was a former head programmer. During his time in the government, Gabriel tried to warn the government about vulnerabilities but was sidelined. And now, he's out for revenge. Right on cue, Gabriel pumps the building full of natural gas to avenge Lynn, but our boys escape just in time. The building blows, triggering a huge blackout. Next, McClane and Matt take a helicopter to the home of another hacker, Frederick Warlock Kaludis. Warlock reveals that the code Matt wrote for Lynn gives access to social security data at a headquarters in Maryland. Turns out, this building was actually an NSA facility, with backups of everyone's personal data. And guess what? Gabriel wants to steal it all. Meanwhile, Gabriel finds McClane's estranged daughter Lucy and kidnaps her. He calls McClane and taunts him. Now it's personal. McClane and Matt head to the facility in Maryland. Once inside, Matt finds the server and locks Gabriel out of his data, but he gets captured and taken to Gabriel's semi-truck base. Gabriel escapes with Lucy and Matt as his hostages, but McClane isn't having that, so he hijacks another semi loaded with gas and chases after them. Gabriel sends a fighter plane after McClane, and it starts destroying large chunks of the road. McClane gets out, but part of the truck's explosive cargo hits the jet, causing it to, you guessed it, blow up spectacularly. McClane survives but is severely beaten up. He sees Gabriel's vehicle go into a hangar. Inside, Gabriel demands that Matt unlock the data, but he refuses. Gabriel shoots him in the leg and turns his gun to Lucy next. But don't worry, Daddy McClane is here. He kills some of Gabriel's guys but gets shot. Gabriel stands behind McClane and sticks his gun barrel into the new wound. McClane then pulls the trigger and says the line yet again, which is censored by the gun's blast on the theatrical cut because, hey, we gotta keep it PG-13.
How about yippee-ki-yay,
The bullet goes through McClane's shoulder and into Gabriel's heart, killing him once and for all. One of Gabriel's top guys is still around, but Matt picks up a gun and kills him too. The FBI arrives. About time. Later, McClane thanks Matt for saving Lucy's life, and she might have a crush on Matt. This would be a great ending for the series, but unfortunately, we have one more movie. Welcome to the final film, A Good Day to Die Hard, which is the only entry that is straight up bad. Let's go all the way to Moscow to meet Viktor Chagrin. He's a corrupt Russian official, and he's interrogating Yuri Komarov, a whistleblower with damaging intel. Meanwhile, John McClane's estranged son, Jack McClane, takes out a Russian mobster in a nightclub and gets arrested. He's got to testify against Komarov in exchange for a shorter sentence. Over in New York, John McClane hears about his son's troubles, and if you're keeping track of his hairline, you'll notice it's totally gone here. Anyways, he's driven to the airport by Lucy and heads off to Mother Russia. Once he arrives, John heads to the courthouse to see the Komarov trial. It goes off the rails when there's an explosion. The bomb is Alec, one of Chagrin's henchmen. Jack frees himself and Komarov. John confronts Jack, but before they can have a proper reunion, Alec and his men chase them out of there through the streets of Moscow. The McClanes and Komarov reach a safe house, where they hide out. John discovers that Jack works for the CIA. He's been deep undercover in Russia for years. They also meet Mike Collins, Jack's partner. He wants Komarov's intel so he can get Chagrin arrested. Komarov is down, as long as he and his daughter are allowed to get the heck out of Russia. Next, Chagrin's guys show up. Collins gets killed, but the McClanes and Komarov escape and head for a hotel that has a key to a safe deposit box, which contains Komarov's intel. At the hotel, they meet Irina, Komarov's daughter. But Alec's men return, capture John and Jack, and take Komarov hostage. Irina ratted them out. Wow, this makes Jack look like son of the year. Jack breaks out of his ties, and we see some father-son bonding through a classic game of killing hitmen. heartwarming. Alec and Irina leave and come back with a freaking attack helicopter, and the McClane boys get away by jumping out of the building to be saved by a scaffolding. Later, the McClanes steal a car loaded with weapons and drive to Ukraine, the location of the safe deposit box. Bad news. Irina and Alec are already there with their hostage Komarov and tons of backup, but John wonders why they need so many guys just to pick up a file. Komarov leads Alec to the file and his daughter to the vault, which contains weapons-grade uranium, and no intel. The file never existed. Komarov and Irina devised this plan to steal the uranium deposit and make big bucks selling it off. Komarov, the real mastermind, kills Alec. He calls Chagrin to brag. Meanwhile, Chagrin's death is orchestrated by a fake meeting at a sauna where a hitman takes him out. Can't a terrorist relax? John and Jack reveal themselves. Komarov acts like they're coming to save him, but when John sees the uranium, he puts together the scheme. The McClanes move to arrest Komarov, but Irina brings some henchmen to escort her dad out of there. Jack trails Komarov, while John separately goes after Irina, whose ride is another helicopter. John stows away as it takes off. Irina backs up Komarov with the chopper's big guns, but Jack knocks it out by ramming a truck into cargo on the ground, which is chained to the chopper. Jack corners Komarov on a rooftop, and Komarov says he's gonna kill John in front of him. John is like, nope, and throws him off the roof, in a callback to Hans Gruber's fall in the first film. Komarov falls into the helicopter blades, which causes John, who's hanging on, to get thrown off and into the snow. The McClanes reunite, but they forgot about Irina. She tries to attack the building by ramming the helicopter. John and Jack leap off the building as it blows up, because that's how the McClanes do things. Once the dust settles, John and his son fly back home to the US of A. Where's Holly? Guess he didn't win her back after all. That sure was a lot of action. But the film itself was really bland. Good thing we have 4 other bangers to come back to again and again. So, what do we think? Is Die Hard actually a Christmas movie, or are people just trolling? Let us know. Feel free to click on the video on screen to watch another one of my videos. By the way, it's 100% a Christmas movie.